Okay, is it worth it to attend truck driving school? Is it worth it to attend driving school? That's what I want to address in this video. I just finished driving school. I live in Virginia. First of all, I just finished driving school April the 3rd. I started in February. And before I started going to driving school, I did a lot of searches on YouTube, on the internet, to find out if other people thought that it was worth it going to driving school or not, because I heard different opinions. Some people said it was worth it. Some people said it wasn't. Just go get up with somebody and ride in the truck with them. Some people said get your learner's permit before you start. Some people said don't worry about getting your learner's permit before you start. Just start where you are. There was a bunch of varying opinions. So I just went to driving school. I went to Shipper's Choice in Chester, Virginia. And again, I started February the 3rd, and I think it was the 4th actually, and I finished on April the 3rd. Got my, passed my driving test and got my CDL on April the 3rd. And today is June the 24th. Oh snap, it's my parents' anniversary. But it's June the 24th, and I'm driving I'm in the truck driving. You know, nobody's in the truck with me or anything. Everything is lovely, everything is smooth, right? So, is it worth going to driving school? It depends. It depends. I want to give you the whole skinny, or as much as I can give to you anyway. My situation was this. My father was an owner-operator, is an owner-operator. He has been for his whole adult life. So I was raised around driving trucks. I'd never driven a truck before, other than sitting on my father's lap when I was 10 or 12 years old and there was no traffic around, and him just kind of letting me guide the truck a little bit a few times. That was it. Other than that, I had never driven an 18-wheeler. I was a truck driver before this, but it was a non-CDL truck. It was a straight truck, a flatbed. It didn't require a CDL. It didn't require even a Class B CDL. You could have a regular driver's license and drive it. So it was like a box truck, basically 26 foot, but it was a flatbed. So that was really the only experience that I had with driving, other than, you know, driving a car. So I did have access to that. But the situation came up where my dad was like, look, you know, I need to maybe possibly put somebody in the truck. So I need you to get your CDL. So you should just go ahead and go to driving school. So I go to driving school. I didn't have a learner's permit. I had never driven the truck before. And it was $5,000 at Shipper's Choice. You can pay for it all at once, and they give you a little bit of a discount, I think like $4,500. Or you can finance it with a couple hundred down, between $200 and $500 down, and payments of $170 a month for a few years. You can do it that way as well. Anybody can get approved for that. Of course, that has interest and stuff with it. So because of the situation, I elected to go ahead and go. So I did it on weekends, okay? I didn't go during the week because I had a job. I did it on weekends, and it was supposed to be 8 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday, for 8 weekends. I started on February the 4th. It was supposed to end on April the 4th, basically. Mine ended on April the 3rd. I'm a bit of the ambitious type. So when I got into school, here's what I experienced. The way that Shipper's Choice did it, if you don't have a learner's permit, which a learner's permit is easy to get. I'm gonna talk about that in 1 second. But if you don't have a learner's permit, then you are on the yard, basically driving the truck, taking, you know, written tests, going over stuff in the classroom, going over the I can't think of the name of the handbook right now, but it's the federal guidelines basically, and they have you going over that and then taking little tests and stuff like that. And I guess they want to give you a sense of accomplishment, or that you're accomplishing something, because you're in the classroom and they're giving you tests and they're grading you on the tests and all of that good stuff. And you kind of feel like you gotta do good on the classroom information in order to get your CDL, but there really is no relation between how you do good, how you do on the test in the classroom, and actually getting your CDL. Shipper's Choice offers, different companies will come in and try to recruit you, basically. Schneider and all of these companies, they'll come in and they'll try to recruit you. And so they recruit right from the driving school. And so I guess basically if you do good on the test and you get your little certificate, then when you go to get hired by one of the companies that came there during your classroom time, you know, in your little welcome packet or your little application packet to that company or whatever, they may ask you to include your certificate of completion from your driver's school. They may ask you to submit that, and you may have to get that in order to get a certificate of completion from the driving school. I'm really not sure. I did the classroom stuff. I passed the test. I went through the books. I did all of that stuff. That was real informal. It really was. That was just a matter of a formality. So I was able to get my certificate of completion, but it really didn't matter because I'm working for my dad right now. So I didn't have to go out and get a job afterwards or go with Schneider or none of those guys. So the classroom thing really wasn't a huge deal. Take the test, pass the little stuff, right? So anyway, if you don't have a CDL, you're gonna be doing class or learner's permit, you're gonna be doing classroom work, and then after you do some classroom work, then you're gonna go out on the yard and you're gonna practice backing up. You're gonna practice the whatever the standards are for backing up that you gotta pass to actually get your CDL through the Department of Motor Vehicles. Keep in mind, you get your CDL through the DMV, not through your driving school. So whatever test that you have to pass, like backing up tests, for instance, when I was there, they had us practicing on 3 different methods of backing up. Straight backing, they had us practicing on, I can't think what it's called, but basically you back up like that in an S, almost in an S for the most part, and then they have you do parallel parking, where you gotta, like you on a busy street basically, and you gotta pull up and then back in, kind of like that. And they got the cones set up. So it was 3 different methods of backing up. Although while I was there, I heard from some of the other people that were mingling around, and I'm gonna talk about them in 1 second, that wasn't necessarily in my class, but it was in classes before me that was still there. They would say stuff like, man, this parallel parking just started being on the DMV test. And so the school just started putting that in there. And so it was a lot of people that couldn't get the parallel parking down. They got the straight backing down, and they were all able to get the offset parking down. That's what it's called when you back up in the little S thing. They was able to get that down. And then they had another one called alley dock parking or something to that effect, where you back around like that. That was obviously the one that the DMV had been doing for a while. But then recently, I guess a few months before I started, which was in February, obviously they switched from alley dock parking or whatever it's called to parallel. And a lot of people, I guess, that was during that transition, trying to get their CDL, was having a problem making the transition from being able to do the alley dock parking to the parallel. And so what I'm saying is, there was people there that I would ask them, I would say, they would say, I would get out the truck after doing an offset parking and doing it good the first time, and they'd be like, man, how long you been here? And I'd be like, man, this is my 3rd week or my 2nd weekend or whatever, 3rd weekend or whatever. And I would say, how long you been here? Oh man, I finished the school last year, but I wasn't able to get my learner's permit. I wasn't able to do something or whatever. And so now they're in a position now where they're trying to get their learner's permit and their CDL, and they don't know how to do parallel parking, hypothetically. So it was people there that came to the driving school last year, and for some reason didn't get their learner's permit and didn't get their CDL after they finished the school. So that's where the question comes from. Man, should I even have come here or not? That's where that comes from. So again, my experience was, when I went in there, I did not have a learner's permit. I had never driven the truck. So for the first, I think, 3 weekends, maybe even 4 weekends, it was just classroom and practicing on the backing up out on the yard. That's all it was for me. And then either the third or the fourth weekend, I went and took my test at the DMV to get my learner's permit, and I aced it. And so then I was able to go out on the road with the instructors and get some road time, which really wasn't a lot for the next either 4 weekends or 5 weekends or whatever it was after that. And so after I got my learner's permit, after I got my learner's permit, I was able to go out on the road. I wasn't in the classroom no other weekend after that. And they still had little tests that you could do, but to be honest with you, I had already, never mind, I ain't even gonna speak about that. I took all my tests and all of that stuff. So, but anyway, every weekend after I got my learner's permit, I wasn't in the classroom. We would just get there, put our books down in the classroom, and the people that had a learner's permit would then go out with an instructor. They only had a few instructors though, and they only had a few trucks. And sometimes they didn't have a few, they only had one. So it was some weekends where I didn't even get a chance to go out on the road with an instructor. Go figure. And on those weekends, even though I got a learner's permit, I'm still just practicing on backing up, which didn't come as an issue for me at all. None of the 3 backing ups that they had was a problem with me at all. So here's what I did. Once I got those down, the methods of backing up, the class was supposed to be 8 hours, Saturday and Sunday, and 8 weekends. But I left early every weekend though. I left early at like 12:01, 11 some weekends. You know what I mean? Even if I went out on the road, I would come in and practice backing it up a few times, get in line, because it was a line, it was other students there. Like I said, you didn't have all the trucks all the time, so you gotta wait in line, wait in your rotation. So you find yourself being there in the yard for a few hours, 2, 3, 4 hours, and not even getting a chance to practice backing up but once or twice. You know you need to practice backing up, but it's like that, they need more trucks, they need more instructors, and they didn't have that. So you found yourself sitting there not really getting much use out of your time. And then when you did go out, you could only go out once. The little route, it was 4 people in the truck. Each person got behind the wheel for 10 or 12, maybe 15 minutes, went around the block, and that was that. So every weekend, the weekends I didn't have my CDL, I didn't have my learner's permit, I would go in there, do whatever classroom stuff needed to be done, go out in the yard, practice on backing up a few times, then I was going home. If it was raining, I was going home. But understand, I had no problem with backing up. I had it, I got it. I'm like, I don't need to keep on doing this, man, I got it. I can go home and practice on my pop's truck, which I did, but I didn't do much. I would go home and he would say, well, let's go up to the store, which is 5 minutes up the road, and let's fuel the truck up. And I did that maybe twice. Come home from school early and then go up the street to fuel the truck up. Me and him wasn't practicing on backing up. He was teaching me how to drive the truck and how to shift and stuff like that, And they wanted us to double clutch in the school, but my pops was like, man, listen, we're not doing that stuff. So he was teaching me how to drive the truck. They was teaching you what needed to be done in order to pass the test. So that was my experience. Again, there was people there that had been there at the school, that had finished the school, that had went through all the classroom stuff and still went and took their DMV test and hadn't passed it. Still, for whatever reason, didn't have their learner's permit. If a person didn't have a learner's permit, it was one guy that couldn't get his learner's permit because he had an issue getting his medical card. But he had already started in my class. So it was a lot. What I'm saying is there was a lot of people there that even though they started the school and either elected to pay their money all at once or they agreed to start financing it, and so they paying for it. Some of them were not able, a lot of them, a large portion of them were not able to. It's like you feel like when you pay your money, when you get done in 8 weeks, you want to be able to go and get your driver's license, your CDL. You want to be able to have your CDL. And so a person is like, if I got to pay $5,000-$6,000 and when I get done in 8 weeks, I'm not going to have my CDL, is it worth it even going? For me, it was. Because I went in there, like I said, I didn't have no driving experience, but it ain't that difficult to drive a truck, especially if you like driving, you know what I mean? So I went in there, I learned how to back up. I passed all the little tests that they little classroom tests. I went out on the road, I learned how to drive the truck, I learned how to downshift and do all that good stuff. and I didn't play around with it. And like I said, I went home early every single weekend. I didn't stay till 4, not nary weekend. And I got my learner's permit, either 3 weekends or 4 weekends with the in. I think I had it by my 4th weekend. 4th time I went back, I think I had it, and I started going out on the road after that point. I think it was 1 or 2 weekends I didn't even get a chance to go out on the road because of a shortage of trucks. So again, you don't want to face all that. When you go, there's a lot of people that's like, man, I paid my money and I ain't got enough time in the truck. Driving, backing up didn't come as easy to some people as it came to me. And so a lot of people walking around felt like, man, listen, I need more time in the truck. All I really need is to be riding with a friend. I got a friend of mine that got a trucking company that said I can ride with him anytime I get ready to. And if you got access to that, that's probably best to do. Really, you know, the thing that you need to know is what needs to be done to pass the Department of Motor Vehicles driving test. And that's what they're gonna teach you at the school. That's what they're gonna make sure you know. If you ride with your friend, like I said, when I rode with my pops, when I came home to fill up the truck, he wasn't teaching me how to double clutch. We wasn't going over how to parallel park. He was like, you ain't never gonna parallel park. It's unnecessary. So, but the DMV has you do that to pass the test, so the school needs to teach you to do that if you're gonna come there. But you need time in the truck and time driving and time backing up in order to do that. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight if you're coming from the perspective of there is someone else that you can ride with and get some time behind the wheel. If you can do that, then do that. If you can't do that, then again, when you come to the school, just because you come don't mean you're gonna leave with your CDL. You know, you gotta get it, which I didn't have a problem getting it, and you probably won't either. But there were a lot of people there that had took the school, finished the class, didn't have a CDL. The day I went and took my driving test, which was a day early, because I felt like I was ready for it. Everybody else in the class was like, man, I'm gonna wait until they put me on the schedule. And some of them was either putting a time that they was on the schedule back. They was putting it back. The instructor put them on the schedule to take the test at the DMV a certain day, and they like, man, let me switch with somebody else because I'm not ready yet. I ain't had enough time behind the wheel. So it was a lot of people that did that. But the day that I took mine, which was a day early, I was the only, it was 4 other people there that took their DMV their test to get their CDL. And I was the only one that passed. Only one other person got to the actual road portion of the test. The other ones either failed on the in-cab, on the inspection, the in-cab inspection, the walk-around inspection, or they failed on the air brake test, or they failed on the parking. On the backing, the straight back, the offset, and the parallel parking. They failed on one of them. Everybody else, the other 3 people that took the test failed on either those portions, and one other guy got out to the driving portion of the test, and then he failed on the driving portion of the test, unfortunately, for all of them. So, but I was the only one that passed. So I think unless it was somebody in my class, which I don't think it was, on the schedule to take the test the next day, which was the 4th, which was actually 2 months from the date that I started, my class started. It was about 8, 9, maybe 10 of us in that class, between 6 and 10 of us in that class. Nobody graduated on time. Nobody got their seat. Nobody stopped, paid their money, and 2 months later had their CDL, except for me in that class, I believe. I don't think that happened with anybody else. So is it worth it? It may or may not be. It may or may not be. Again, that was my experience. I never had any experience driving a truck before then. And then like I said, once I got my CDL, the very next day, it might have even been that day. I think it was the very next day though, I started driving for my pop. I didn't have to go through the issue of looking for a job and having to find a company that would accept somebody that didn't have no experience. My pop did run into a little small snag, we thought, with the insurance. His insurance didn't want to insure me. At first, he was saying that might be an issue because I didn't have no time behind the wheel. But they put it on there that I had been a driver of another kind of truck for the last 3 years. And I don't know, the insurance got accepted. All of that went through like it was supposed to. So insurance was a small issue, and I guess a big company would run into that as well, of having to get a driver that don't have no time behind the wheel insured. So that's another issue you need to ask about if you in the school, because again, you want to leave the school having your CDL working, or at least having a job. And that didn't happen for a lot of people for a variety of reasons. Some of it was the individual's fault, and some of it, I'll be honest with you, a big portion of it was the school's fault. A lack of people didn't have enough time behind the wheel because of a lack of trucks and things and all that stuff. So it wasn't cut and dry that if you went and paid your money, you was gonna leave with your learner, with your CDL. It happened that way for me, but it doesn't happen that way for everybody. So hopefully that right there gives you some insight and gives you some clarity on whether you even need to invest or how you want to move forward with getting your CDL. I'm working now. I love driving the truck. Absolutely. So again, for me, it was worth it. I kind of wish I would have rolled with my pop instead of going to the school. But again, even if I would have rolled with my pop, I know I would have learned how to drive the truck, but I wouldn't necessarily have known what needed to be known to pass the driving test and all of the air brake and all of that stuff. I mean, I could have went by the book, because they do have a book. So I could have gone by the book. But even you could go by the book. The DMV does have a book that you can go and get, and if you follow that book, you will pass your test to get your learner's permit, which ain't nothing but a written test. I thought it was more than that. If I'd have known it was just a written test that I could go and study a book on, and if I'd have known it was as simple, and if I would have known all of that, I would have just gotten my CDL, my learner's permit, before I ever started driving school, before I ever went. So that way I wouldn't have had to spend those 3 or 4 weekends in the classroom. I would have done that. There was also an application called CDL Prep, an application that you can download on your smartphone. Just go right to your Play Store or your iPhone store, your App Store, whatever, and download CDL Prep. And CDL Prep had all sections of the CDL Learner's Permit test. The combination vehicles test, the passenger vehicles test, the hazardous, the general knowledge. It had all of that, and you could just practice on it, on that application. And it was 95% just like the actual test that you go and take at the DMV to get your learner's permit. The application is called CDL Prep. So you can do that as well. If I would have known that there was an application, then I could just go to the DMV and get the book, which I did know I could go to the DMV and get the book, but I figured, I was like, I would need some guidance on what actual subjects to focus on in this book, so I don't spend all this time studying all of this stuff for no reason. But if I would have known there was an application that would have took me right to what I needed to know, and the collusion with being able to skim over the book and study the book, you can get the application and study the book, and next week go and get your learner's permit. That's nothing. You can go and do that and then start school with your learner's permit. Or if you know somebody that you can get hired with right after you get your CDL, you can go and start riding with them after that, and then continue to study the book, because the book will tell you what the DMV expects from you when you go and take your driving test. Keep in mind, you get your CDL through the DMV, not through your driving school. So you can go and get the book and then continue to study up on what they're going to expect from you, and then you can ride with someone for a few weeks, and then you can go and take your DMV driving test on your own without going to the school. You could do it that way. Find out the cost of taking a DMV test from state to state. How many times you get to take it for free before you gotta pay, or how many times you get to take it at a reduced price before you gotta pay, because I believe it is a situation where after you fail it like 3 times, then you gotta pay to take the test then. Which if you go into the school and you paid to go to school and you finished your test, some of the schools across the country want extra money from you after that. If you don't graduate on time, they want extra money from you, but then you got to pay them extra money, and you got to pay the DMV extra money if you fail your test. That's a whole bunch of crazy stuff, and there is people that have gotten caught up in that. That didn't work that way for me, so it's no guarantee, either way. It's kind of up to the individual. So again, I didn't have any driving experience or anything, and I only went out to fuel the truck up like twice during that 8-week period with my dad, and the diesel stop is 5 minutes up the road. So it wasn't like, well, you went home and rode with your dad and practiced. I didn't do none of that stuff. I just got it in the time that I was there, and then I left early every single weekend. So there is enough time if you don't BS and if you don't waste time, and if you if you got your ducks in a row. There was one guy that started the school, like I said, and then he found out after he started the school that he couldn't get a medical card. And you got to be able to get a medical card in order to get your CDL. So it was some issues. He had issues with him. So that was something else as well. So check on all of that stuff. It didn't cost nothing to go and get a medical card. It wasn't an issue with going to get a medical card. They didn't drug test me when I went and got my physical to get my medical card. All of the tests that they ran on me, I asked the lady specifically, what are you testing me for and why? She told me why everything. I asked her no specific reason. I just wanted to know how the process worked. I'm like, are you testing me for any type of drugs, any type of anything? And she was like, no, all of the tests that we running on you are for your blood and sugar and stuff like that. We don't drug test you. So there was no issue at all with getting my medical card. It cost whatever it cost at a Minute Clinic, which was in my area, CVS, a Minute Clinic. I called, I set up an appointment. I think it was $100 to go and get my to go get my physical, to get my medical card. I left with my medical card, and then I went and got my and you had to have your medical card. I'm not sure if you had to have your medical card to get your learner's permit or not. I think here you had to have your medical card to get your learner's permit. So I got all that straight by the 4th weekend that I was there, and got my CDL by a day early, and everything went according to plan for me, and it can go according to plan for you, but it's no guarantee. A lot of it got to do with you. And it just got to do with you and how quick you pick up on things and whether you playing around and stuff like that. Like I said, the issue with the medical card was kind of out of a person's control, but you can, again, go and get that and your learner's permit before you even start school. There's really no use in even starting school unless you have those, and it's nothing but a matter of studying up on the book and downloading the application to be able to pass your learner's permit. The knowledge test to get your learner's permit. I passed mine. The first test I had to take, first time I had to take 3 different sections: general knowledge, combination, and air brakes. It was 20 to 25. It was 20 to 25 questions on combination and air brakes. I think it was either 50 or 60 questions on general knowledge. I think on general knowledge I missed about 5, and on combination I missed 3 or 4, and on air brakes I missed 3 or 4. I can't remember, but it was easy. It was just like the information that was in the book, and it was just like the information that was on the application that you can download on your phone. So that was my experience. Hopefully that helps you out. I'm about to pull up, and I'm about to load up and keep making this money. Peace.